Hello, BookTube. I've got some mail for you today on an overcast, muggy Tuesday. We've got a warm, damp system that has moved in. Would have been nice, could have been forgivable if it had been a warm, damp system that moved in with rain, but it is not going to rain. Instead, we've just got the warmth and the dampness. It's okay. It'll clear things out. There'll be a brief moment of dry beauty, and then more heat. Next week, just more heat, day after day after day after day, without a drop off that I can see. So this is going to be another 10 or 15 day blast of hot weather, which I can't really say anything about. If you're at the end of July going into August, that's exactly when you're going to get the dog days of summer. But I'm not looking forward to it. It definitely has me and the little bean crawling the walls when it's so hot outside. But let's look at this mail and see what we've got. We'll see also what it's like to look at this mail from a reviewer's point of view. Because of course the only reason that I'm getting a stack of books in the mail every day is because I'm a book reviewer and a book section editor and a book columnist. And it's interesting to think about that because you're all readers, and I over the years have urged you all to try your hand at writing actual book reviews, not personal responses on Amazon or Goodreads. Although I have no contempt for personal responses. I read those on Amazon and Goodreads, and I love them. But let's not call them reviews. They aren't reviews. A review is a more or less formal critical response to something. It's not, I had an upset stomach and this thing really helped or whatnot. That doesn't help you as a reader at all. I've made this point many times, so I don't need to harp on it. But I strongly have urged many of you over the years to try your hand at book reviewing anywhere. But also, I am an editor at an online literary journal, Open Letters Review, where we run book reviews. Not just me; we run book reviews from lots of people. It's a fun process to do. A lot of people that I've talked to, are not just on my time on BookTube, but over the centuries, have said that they really don't want to get into the habit of reading things critically because it feels to them like a killjoy way to read. It feels to them like, oh, I won't enjoy anything if I'm nitpicking. First of all, critically reading something is not the same as nitpicking. And second, I don't have any way to convince them. I'm not going to strong arm anybody, but I always tell them, you'll never go back because you'll never want to. What you're saying is that you like reading books uncritically because more books please you that way. Well, okay, that might be true. It's certainly true that somebody who reads books uncritically is more pleased by more of what they read than, for instance, I am. But, and again, I don't mean this, I am sure that if you're watching my channel after all this time, you're not wearing that I'm a snob. But it does sound snobbish, so I want to preface by saying I know what it sounds like, but it's true that I might be reading fewer books that I'm genuinely enjoying, or that pass a critical appraisal, but those books are better. It's a difficult conversation to have, but I still think you should try it. Try your hand at writing book reviews, and if you want, I will be happy to help you and run your book review at Open Letters Review, which is not a bad gig to have. We don't have a print journal, and we don't pay you, but you get to appear on a journal with a pretty good masthead. Olive is on that masthead. Britta is on that masthead. Sam is on that masthead, and so for better or worse am I. It's not bad company to be in, especially if it's your first time at bat. And you could, with perseverance, go on, if you wanted, to flog your work elsewhere and get other editors to say yes. Plenty of people through Open Letters Monthly and Open Letters Review have done that. It does work. It does happen. And it's also an interesting thing to do. So there you go. That's the end of the pitch. If you're persistent at it, that is. And especially if you have a green light from me. Because when it comes to estimating who is good at this, genuinely good at this, and who isn't, I'm never wrong. I can be wrong, of course. I don't have any control over whether or not a person I say is really good at it actually sticks with it long enough to get past the indifference and the stupidity and the incompetence of most other editors in order to get published elsewhere. I can't make a person do that. I can lead a person to a galley, but I can't make them review it. But I'm never wrong about the call. Never. That one of the very few human-related skills where I can say with confidence I am never wrong about this. If I say you've got it, whatever it is, however we describe it, I am not wrong about that. Whether you choose to do anything about it is up to you. But let's see what we have for mail, and we'll keep that in mind. We'll look at these in among other things to see how a reviewer would look at them. Oh, okay. Well, we start off pretty strong. We start off pretty strong not only with the book, but also with the reviewing part, because this is going to get reviewed everywhere. Absolutely everywhere. This comes out on December 3rd. So this is one of my latest books so far. And this is by Tsuyoshi Hasegawa, and it is The Last Tsar, the abdication of Nicholas II and the fall of the Romanovs. Let's see here. The Russian Empire entered the 20th century both blessed and cursed. Modernity was reinventing all aspects of life. Cars ran alongside horse-drawn carriages. Sumptuous palaces constructed in the 18th century were refurbished with new technologies. Banks, the stock exchange, luxurious shops bustled. At the same time, an increasingly discontented middle class clamored for political participation. To rule over this vast, dynamically changing empire would have been a challenging task for any leader, and unfortunately for Russia, no one was more ill-equipped than Tsar Nicholas II. I might point out here that an increasingly discontented middle class, as this pub sheet puts it, in no way wanted the monarchy ended. Okay, for whatever it's worth, I should point that out. They might have been discontented, but they in no way wanted the czars to be gone. In this book, the author shows how Nicholas's poor leadership and attachment to archaic notions of autocracy led to the end of the Romanov dynasty. Oh no, Nicholas is going to get it in the teeth. Oh no. He brings to life the most captivating... Okay, the author, I assume, does here, since Nicholas isn't doing that. He's a little bit past caring. He brings to life the most captivating personalities of the era. The bumbling Nicholas, his spiteful wife, oh no, the whole family. The family's faith healer, Rasputin. You know what clip I'm thinking of. Time to dance on your graves. And untangles the dramatic struggles by Russia's aristocratic, military, and legislative elite to reform the monarchy. By rejecting compromise, Nicholas repeatedly missed crucial opportunities to renegotiate Romanov power that would have left the monarchy intact, if diminished. Probably the author is thinking along the lines of his cousin in England, who did exactly that. Nicholas's fall from power in 1917 marked the end of 300 years of Romanov rule in the Russian Empire, and the end of the monarchical system as a whole. It was an epoch-making event that would lead to the Bolshevik coup in October, the Russian Civil War, the Soviet rule under Lenin and Stalin. Because Nicholas's reign was plagued by war and social unrest, it's commonly accepted that the end of the monarchy was inevitable. But as the author makes clear, self-destruction was as much, if not more, at play. Goodness gracious. Okay, well, this is, as I've said many times, this is what I love about reading history and biography. It would sound like this is going to be a little bit of both, is that new authors come along. They are looking at the sources. You are guessing what those sources are because they are absolutely not effing including bibliographies in their books. And they're coming to their own conclusions. This author definitely has a conclusion loaded for bear against Tsar Nicholas and even his family as being autocratic and close to change. Well, all right, bring it on. This is going to get reviewed so well. Again, if we look at it as a reviewer, the only worry that I have two about this book's fate in what Gore Vidal referred to as the book chat world. One, it is well-trod ground. There have been hundreds of books on this subject in the last 100 years. And two, the timing. The timing. December 3rd is the release date of this book. It should have been October 30th, November 3rd even would be better. By December 3rd, most book sections are longingly looking at the changeover of the year, the long holidays, the planning of the new year, all that sort of thing. Most of them, by that point, are not looking for a major new release. Their coverage is already set in stone. They're already done. December 3rd might be a little late for a book like this. Well, not for me, not for Open Letters. We are on the job all the way around the clock. So, but those are minor worries because this is a big, accessible new book on a subject that people never tire of writing about it. You can imagine, again, speaking as a reviewer, but also, I guess, as a review section editor. I am, in addition to being a reviewer, I am a review section editor. I'm an editor for Open Letters Review that I mentioned. I'm also an editor, the book section editor, of the smallest book section in a print newspaper anywhere in the country, maybe anywhere in the world. Georgia's Big Canoe News in northern Georgia is a monthly full-color paper. Some of you have done me the honor of subscribing to it just so you can get my book section. They have a book section, not book reviews from time to time in an art section, but an actual dedicated book section. Bless them. They're got to be one of the only papers left in the country that has such a thing. And I'm the editor of that section. So in addition to being an online editor, as I've been for a long time now, I am also the book section editor of a print newspaper. That I did not see that coming. I did not think that would ever happen again in my life. As a friend of mine said years ago when the job came my way, that kind of a position doesn't fall out of a tree. So I'm immensely grateful. I don't even care that my book section is the smallest in the country. I'm immensely grateful, and also it's darn good. It's darn good, and we will be covering this almost certainly. All right, so there you go. That is, we're off to a good start. What is this next one? Also from Basic Books. Oh, wow. Oh, man. All right, Basic Books continues their thread of great stuff. So this comes out in mid-November. This is by Adrian Tinniswood. I'm sure that a lot of you, those of you who read nonfiction, know of Adrian Tinniswood. He wrote a book called The Long Weekend, not to be confused with the Robert Graves book of the same title, but a wonderful book. I didn't really appreciate it as much as I should have when it first came out. I've gone since back to it, and I really like it a lot more. To the point where I really like this scholar. And this is the new book, The Power and the Glory: Life in the English Country House Before the Great War. Let's leave aside the fact that we should be moratoriuming these titles. The Last Tsar, The Power and the Glory. Let's get rid of those. Okay, so they're hackneyed. Dozens of books have had these titles. But aside from that, these authors do not consult me. My advice for titling a book is available 24 hours a day, free of charge. They don't consult me. I guarantee you that a much better title for this book is in the first 3 chapters of this book. But we don't have a sheet, again, for this one, so we'll just read the back. But you all know I love the English country houses and also their world. And they are often studied between the wars, but I love the pre-war era, especially good 60 years before the war. This is a bullseye. It's as much a bullseye as a Steve book as you could ask for. For generations, the great palaces of Britain were home to living histories, noble families that had reigned for centuries. But by the end of the 19th century, members of elite society found themselves for the first time in the company of arrivistes. Their new neighbors, from chorus girls to millionaire greengrocers to guano impresarios, lacked lineage and were unencumbered by the weight of tradition. In this book, the author reconstructs life in the country house during its golden age before the Great War, when Britain ruled over a quarter of the Earth's population and its stately homes were at their most opulent. But change was on the horizon. The landed classes were being forced to grapple not only with new neighbors, but also with new social norms and expectations, and also railways. Don't underestimate the effect of suddenly being able to get anywhere. Railways had a big effect on not only ease of industrialization, but also the movement of people. So that the front parlor little mullioned window in your enormous pile of a country estate that for literally 400 years had looked on the rolling landscape of your acreage backed by a forest that went on to the horizon. And one generation after another of the young men in that family took that room as their study so they could look at their world. And then suddenly, some of those trees in the distance are being felled. They're not on your land, so you can't forbid it. And suddenly there's noise. There's a train track. There's a train running through there. And maybe a town growing up there. But anyway, an exuberant story. This book offers a delicious, captivating, and often scandalous history of the English country house. Well, I'm totally on board. To put it mildly, I am prepared for this book. So if you were again, to talk about it in reviewer terms, if you were to do this, you would, of course, be linking it to something like Downton Abbey. That would be in your lead, probably. And that would probably be in your elevator pitch to an editor if you were trying to pitch this book. Not to this editor. To me, you don't have to sell it to me in a package with a ribbon on it. You just have to say, I would like to review this. And assume that I know what you're talking about. And that I will estimate for myself whether or not it has any legs as a review. You should definitely assume that with me. I probably understand how a lot of young, up-and-coming new guns don't want to assume that about their own editors, about the editors they may be encountering out in the wild. Most of those editors probably, you would have to sort of hold their hand a little. You don't have to hold mine. It doesn't matter. I'm going to write about this myself. Oh my! All right. Well, this can't all be basic bullseyes. It can't be. So let's move on to this next one and see what we have here. Oh, okay, all right. Well, this is still a really strong mail haul. This is completely different. We moved to fiction. We moved to Lee Child. This is Safe Enough, a short story collection. How's that for a cover? Isn't that awesome? It's so minimalistic, but it conveys so much. Oh, my. Okay, so what have we got here? When are you out? September. Okay, so this is right around the corner. Let's see here. This one I don't need to sell you at all. I needed to sell you on Tsar Nicholas, and I needed to sell you on the English Country House Before the War, but I don't need to sell you on Lee Child. This is a collection of 20 stories. For the past 20 years, Lee Child has been one of the best-selling authors in the world, thanks to the popularity of his iconic and instantly recognizable hero, Jack Reacher. But even at the height of Reacher's fame, Child's short story writing was not confined to the series. Throughout the course of his career, he published tales about a range of characters on both sides of the law, including assassins, a bodyguard, CIA and FBI agents, gangsters, and more. Where did he publish these? Meticulously plotted and packed with Child's trademark action and suspense, the stories show the author's mastery of the short form, and they've never been collected before now. How fascinating. Although, if you're going to tout Lee Child as an author, definitely tout his talent for action, but not suspense. He doesn't do suspense. He's terrible at it. Humor. You tout humor instead. I'm sure all you Lee Child fans would agree. Action and humor. Dark humor, but humor, as opposed to suspense. When did he ever do that? But anyway, that's fascinating. And of course, when we're talking about this, again, from a reviewer's point of view, that's the sort of thing that sticks out in a pub sheet for a reviewer, is that this has never happened before. These have never been collected before. I want to know where they were published. I want to know what kind of readership they might have had before this book. Okay, so then we get a rundown of some of the stories. In 10 Keys, a drug-dealing hitman feels that he must unburden his fears and guilt to a stranger. A rookie cop in Normal in Every Way is assigned to the department's file room, where he makes connections to historic dates that could lead to solving crimes. A methodical bodyguard quits his job when he's outsmarted. A military mission is planned to perfection. A potential worker for the Manhattan Project is carefully surveilled by an FBI agent. Oh, so these reach back in history as well. How interesting. These 20 intriguing, thrilling, and rapid-fire fictions are sure to please new and longtime fans of Child and to illuminate a side of the author's work unknown to Reacher devotees. Okay, so... it has a new introduction by the author, and it's the first book written entirely by Child alone in 3 years. So that's interesting. The stories have never been collected before. It's the first Lee Child only production in years. It leaves just a couple of questions. Now, one of the questions you can answer, I think, fairly confidently without reading the book. One of the questions that pops up right away is, do any of these short stories involve Jack Reacher? I think the answer is no, or the pub sheet would have said so. And the other question that pops up for me is, where did these appear? What is the provenance of these stories? So you go to the copyright information for that. And what have we got here? Racing Horse Anthology, Study in Sherlock, First Thrills. It Occurs to Me That I Am America, edited by Jonathan Santlofer. Deadly Anniversaries with Bill Pronzini. Alive in Shape and Color, edited by Lawrence Block. Okay, so it looks like these over the years were appeared in various crime anthologies where the editor would be asking for an original work. Like, for instance, Belfast Noir, edited by Adrian McKinty. Another Lawrence Block thing, in paintings inspired by the painting, short stories inspired by the paintings of Edward Hopper. I think we saw that book on this channel. Okay. All right, Sandra Brown, Robert Randisi. Okay, so these are the usual suspects, and Harlan Coben, Otto Penzler, of course, they would have reached out to their authors and said, I'm putting together an anthology and I want an original work. Do you have something that's never seen the light of day before? And that's what all these are. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Because even a Lee Child fan, what are the odds that they have all of those anthologies or even ever saw them? Some of those venues are rather small, so fantastic. Absolutely great. All right, so in terms of reviewing, in terms of pitchability, what a thing. Don't know how well it will get reviewed unless some editor or some reviewer wants to pitch it as, isn't it time to give lots of serious literary credit to Lee Child, since it doesn't look like he's going to write an unassisted book on his own anymore. Someone could pitch the book along those lines. That might work. A lot of editors don't like short story anthologies. They don't want to give room to that. But oh my, okay. What is this? Reaction Books. Okay, I don't think I remember this. This is by Alexander Pluskowski, sorry. And this is The Teutonic Knights, Rise and Fall of a Religious Corporation. A heavy little reaction book that has heavy-duty paper and lots of full-color illustrations scattered all throughout, hence the heavy-duty paper. Look at that. 3D diagrams, paintings, everything is in here. Fantastic. Except a sheet. I don't have a pub sheet for this, so let's just read this. This book provides a concise and incisive introduction to the Teutonic Knights, or Teutonic Order, the last of the great military orders established in the 12th century. Evolving into a powerful religious institution, the Knights left a profound and enduring legacy. The author traces the order's journey from a field hospital outside the walls of Jerusalem during the Third Crusade to its remarkable rise to a major territorial ruler and power in northeastern Europe. He charts the 3 centuries of theocratic rule by this remarkable religious corporation and examines the order's notable accomplishments as well as its failures. Where's Jason Harrigan when you need him? I know he's out there, but he's not on BookTube anymore. From constructing distinctive fortified convents, the jokes write themselves, including the largest castle in Western Christendom as its headquarters, to the order's decline in the 15th century due to devastating war with Poland and Lithuania, and the secularization of its Prussian and Livonian branches during the Reformation, this book is a compelling look at a pivotal force in European history. Oh my, okay, fantastic. That is great. I need to find the release date on it, but you'll notice I'm not all that tempted to talk about this in terms of a reviewer. Because unless, I don't even know, unless some well-established historian or public intellectual goes to the editor or knows the editor of the New York Review of Books and says, I'd like to write a long rambling piece about this thing, it's not going to get reviewed anywhere. It's because you would only have 800 words. You would have to spend 750 of them bringing the reader up to speed. No reader's ever heard of the Teutonic Order. So, I don't know. I will read it with joy, especially if, as I suspect, it is out already. I might review it. But in general reviewer speak, as a reviewer and an editor, it doesn't have much of a chance. Not much of a chance. It's an extinct German religious military order. In other words, fascinated to Jason Harrigan, but maybe if for the London Review or the New York Review, maybe if somebody wants to make something out of this instead of just a review of this book, maybe that piece would happen. Now watch me be wrong. Watch it get reviewed everywhere. Every once in a while I see a book and think, oh, you don't have legs at all, and then it does get reviewed everywhere. But in this case, I don't know. I doubt it. So let's keep going. Let's look at this next one. Oh, it's another finished copy. That's great. That's great. We want finished copies. Is this? Oh, it's from Reaction Books as well. Oh, Oh my. Okay. All right. Calm yourself. So we'll see how objective I can be in assessing a book's reviewability when it's a Steve book. We've got a few Steve books, but it doesn't get more than this. This is by Mary Flannery, and it is a biography of Geoffrey Chaucer. It is Unveiling the Merry Bard, another little heavy book from Reaction Books. That is heavy for the same reason, because it's got pictures scattered all throughout in heavier stock paper. Okay, so I don't have a sheet for this, but let's read about this thing that I'm going to try to be objective about. This is a new account of the life and accomplishments of medieval England's most famous poet. For over 6 centuries, Chaucer has epitomized poetic greatness, though in more recent years, the lively and often risque style of his best-known work, The Canterbury Tales, has made his name synonymous with bawdy humor. Yes, that's in more recent times, definitely. He was never known for bawdy humor 500 years ago. Nevertheless, beyond his poetic achievements, Chaucer assumed various roles, including those of royal attendant, soldier, customs officer, justice of the peace, also diplomatic emissary. No small thing. Try taking a train of snow-blinded donkeys and horses over the Alps in midwinter. It's no small thing to do that. Mary Flannery chronicles Chaucer's journey during one of the most turbulent periods in English history, illuminating how he came to be known not only as the father of English poetry, but as England's Merry Bard. Okay, so who is Mary Flannery when she's at home? I feel like I like her already. How I would like to talk to her about researching this book. She is a Swiss National Science Foundation Excellenza Professional Fellow in English at the University of Bern. How do you fit that on a business card? She is a fellow at the Royal Historical Society and the Society of Antiquaries, has published widely on medieval literature and culture, and writes regularly for the TLS. Okay, well, it's small, it's digestible. It is not the huge Chaucer biography that's coming out next year. I hope that's coming out next year. You could send this. I mean, this is what, 160 pages? Something like that? No, I don't want a select bibliography. I want the bibliography. I want everything you consulted. Yeah, 160 pages. So you could send this to a reviewer. They're not going to be bowled over by it. They're not going to need to be crushed by it. You're not going to need, in other words, to send it to a Chaucer expert. Although it would be great if you could. If you have one on speed dial, the New York Review of Books has 3 on speed dial. The London Review of Books has a legendary guy that could do this. Or they could go to Chaucer's last 2 biographers are still alive. The full-dress gigantic biographies. Not that this could still be really good, but you expect it to be bigger. And there is one floating around. I don't know if it's got a green light anywhere, but there is one floating around that's 5 times this size. But it's a guy everybody knows. Almost everybody in the English-speaking world is exposed to Chaucer in school at some point or other, which renders it a different thing than this, right? So this is reviewable, very, very reviewable. I just don't know. I don't know if I know about that other book floating around out there. Maybe editors do too. And there's this dumb idea that book section editors have that they have only a certain amount of bandwidth on any one subject, with only few exceptions. So if you commission a review of, I don't even know, Henry VIII, then it doesn't matter if 2 other great Tudor-era books come out in the next year. You're not going to assign them. You say, oh, we already did that. We did the Tudors, or we did Henry VIII. As if 2 really good, worthwhile, notice-worthy books on the same subject couldn't appear in such a time period. Editors think that way. A lot of them do. I've run afoul of that so many times, where I pitch something to somebody and they say, well, I would, but we just did a Kennedy book. Okay. All right. Fine. Yes, you just did a Kennedy book. I read and clipped the review. Your reviewer hated it. They mostly crapped all over it. And the reason why is because it was a really bad book. This is a really good book. It's also a different book by a different author. Like the kind of thing you're in the job to review. Editors will often do that sort of thing. They will often say, oh, we already did that. And it could be that an editor out there, I don't know how many of them have their ear to the ground as well as I do, and maybe not, word to the wise, maybe have writers and editors over for Wine and Calzones. You learn a lot that way. But they might have heard that, or maybe they're even thinking, it hasn't been that long a time since Marion Turner wrote her great book on Chaucer. It wasn't that long ago. It actually was. It was a decade ago. But they might think, haven't we done that already? I've heard that from so many editors. It's such a dumb thing to say. Haven't we done that already? Like, books are interchangeable. But it's infinitely reviewable at Open Letters. Just not by you, because I'm going to do it. And then we'll do this last one. And then because this mail haunt has gone on a long time, so we'll do this last one. Have a little more chat about whatever's in here from a reviewer's standpoint, and then I will tootle off. So this is another finished copy. That's always good. What have we got here? Oh, right. I think I heard about this from the publicist. Okay. All right. This is August 6th, so all these things have been jostling for my attention. Of course, I want to read the Tsar Nicholas book. That's in December. I want to read the British Country House book. That's in, November? And so on down the line. The only one of these that I could even put off for a little while is the Teutonic Knights one. Thank you very much. I'm sure I'll be interested by the time the book is over, but Tsar Nicholas and his assassination, English country houses, Jack Reacher short stories that I've never read before, Chaucer. That's a lot that I want to read tonight. I want to read a lot of this tonight. And this next one has the shortest pub date. So of all of these, I should be reading this one tonight, unless these reaction books are out already. This is by Virginia Nicholson, and it's called All the Rage. Stories from the Front Line of Beauty. A History of Pain, Pleasure, and Power, 1860 to 1960. With another great cover. We've had a lot of great covers in this mail haul. That is just terrific. I wouldn't improve it in any way. And in the little tag sheet here, not only is there a blurb by Tina Brown, but also this is categorized as women's history. Big, thick thing, a finished copy. What have we got here? A panoramic social history that chronicles the quest for beauty in all its contradictions and how it affects the female body. What? Is this chopped liver? There's no male beauty? Who decides what is fashionable? Yeah. I assumed it would be Owen Lindbergh. What clothes we wear, what hairstyles we create, what color lipstick we adore, what body shape is all the rage. The story of female adornment from 1860 to 1960 is intriguingly unbuttoned. In this glorious social history, the author has long been fascinated by the way we women present ourselves, or are encouraged to present ourselves to the world. And you might, off the top of your head, react to that by saying, isn't that a little presumptuous? That we. But on a technical level, no, you're not. The author is female. I guarantee that all the agents that this author ever even considered consulting were women. The commissioning editor at the publishing house that eventually took the book was, I guarantee, a woman. All of the developmental editors were women. Everyone in the marketing department are women. The person who's going to write and sign the check is a woman. So maybe that we is not presumptuous. Certainly in certain quarters of Twitter politics, that would not only be not presumptuous, it would be ideal. There shouldn't be any men in the publishing industry at all at any level, not even in the mailroom. But if we ignore that, it's still a fascinating subject. I wonder if this is enough room for 100 years. Let's see here. In this book, we learn about, well, is this we? Okay. Your previous use of we excluded me and half your potential audience. So is this still the same we? Should I not be listening to the rest of this? I don't know if I should be or not. I'm going to anyway. In this book, we learn about rational dress, suffragettes' hats, the Marcel wave, the Gibson girls, corsets, and the banana skirt. At the center of this story is the female body in all its diversity: fat, thin, short, tall, brown, white, black, smooth, hairy, wrinkly, youthful, crooked, or symmetrical. And, relevant as ever in this context, the vexed issues of body image and bodily autonomy. In the 100 years this book charts, the Western world saw the rapid introduction of new technologies like photography, film, and eventually television, which, for better or worse, thrust women and female imagery out of the private and into the public gaze. Okay. Oh, that's it. The sheet just stops there. The sheet insinuates that women were not in the public gaze before the introduction of photography, and then just stops. Okay, all right. Should we read about the author? We? I don't know which we it is. Is it the we that's only women, or is it the we that's readers? Some of whom are men. Let's see. She's the author of Among the Bohemians. Oh, Among the Bohemians was really good. Okay, great. A book called Singled Out, which is about how women survived without men after the First World War. Millions Like Us, about women's lives in War and Peace from 1939 to 1949. These sound pretty good. Perfect Wives in Ideal Homes, the story of the women in the 1950s, which I think I read. I think I enjoyed that. What else have you done? She's been prolific. She's a fellow of the Royal Society of Literature and the granddaughter of Vanessa Bell. Of course, with the name Nicholson, I was curious, but I wasn't going to ask. It's not a question we can ask, but nevertheless, she's the granddaughter of Vanessa Bell and the great grandniece of Virginia Woolf. And she's the president of Charleston Trust and a trustee of the Strachey Trust. And the thing is just blurbed all over from the UK press, which is great. That is fantastic. So Amanda Foreman, a lot of you will know that name. She says she's one of our great social historians of our time. No one else makes history this fun. Boy, oh boy, that sounds great. All right, this is right around the corner, so of course I have every reason to read this tonight. Okay, great. Fantastic. And of course, in terms of pitching, in terms of thinking about this for review reasons, it pitches itself. With the exception of myself, the editors of every literary journal are all women. The sub-editors of every literary journal are all women. The most frequent contributors to all regular literary journals and reviews are all women. The copy editors are all women. Everybody, all of it is women. So the pitch here naturally writes itself. I don't know what angle you would take, but it's a fascinating subject. And the authors comes with really good credentials from overseas as a lively writer. And I remember a couple of those books, very favorably, enough to think, a couple of these really intrigue me. I would like to read that one about Perfect Wives in Ideal Homes. I would like to read that. I don't know that ever came out in America, did it? Well, anyway, infinitely pitchable, infinitely interesting, and right around the corner, too. Which means, again, in practical terms, it would mean if you were getting this hardcover today, you couldn't pitch it almost anywhere, because almost any editor would already have reviewed this or slated a review. If they were going to do it, they'd have already been approached. They wouldn't be able to work you in, probably, this late in the game, getting a finished copy. Although maybe they wouldn't care. Maybe they wouldn't care. Maybe they don't run that many book reviews, or maybe they're not all that deadline conscious, and they're thinking, all right, well, I've got my issues blocked out and planned. I've got the checks written and sent out all the way until late August. This book comes out in early August, so the earliest we could run it would be early September. But I don't mind. If you write me a good piece on it, then early September is fine by me. You might find an editor who would do that. So there you go. All the Rage. What a mail haul. What a mail haul. We have All the Rage. We have Nicholas II, the last Tsar. We have The Power and the Glory about English country houses before World War I. We have Safe Enough by Lee Child. I really do think this wins for cover for the batch this time around. Previously uncollected Lee Child short stories. Very interesting. We have The Teutonic Knights, which, despite all appearances, could be very interesting. You never know. And we have a little biography of Geoffrey Chaucer, unveiling the Merry Bard. No idea what kind of job the biographer will do, what kind of approach you'll have to take, because this is 160 pages. It's pretty short for a Chaucer biography. We shall see. So there you go. That is the mail and a whole bunch of reviewer nattering. So I will wrap this up for now, and I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.